And we are back. Indeed, we are. Welcome back once again, and happy Tuesday to you. We continue to be at 888-630-9625 and talking about Jeff Zuckerberg. What? It's not Jeff Zuckerberg, it's Mark Zuckerberg. It's Jeff Zucker. But Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO and founder and chairman of Meta Platforms, Facebook, and all that, in his letter to the Congress about all the corruption of our government, of our federal government. And there is plenty. And that's only one of the crazy stories today, too. For example, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has removed over 1 million ineligible voters from the Texas voter rolls, including nearly 500,000 dead people on the voter rolls. Those are Democrats. That's what we call Democrats, the dead people. The remarkable thing is, being from Chicago myself, those are the people that most reliably show up to vote on Election Day. It's an extraordinary thing. Remarkable things. And we've got Venezuelan gangs everywhere now. They're in the suburbs because the Democrats want more murder, more mayhem, more anarchy, more chaos. You know how they are. They're not on our side. Extraordinary things going on. President Trump, the presidential campaign, Kamala Harris, the great headline in PJ Media. Kamala Harris is trying to back out of the debates. Kamala Harris is trying to back out of the debates, and they're smugly and arrogantly attacking President Trump over things like whether the microphones will be hot all the time or whether they're going to cut the mics off as they did in the last debate with Joe Biden, where Joe Biden did so badly. And now the Democrats are freaking out, and they're having a gender panic, and they want to pretend that they're women tennis players when they're men. And it's just these freakazoids are completely nuts. So we've got some of this and some of that, but let me get back to the Mark Zuckerberg question, because this is remarkable. Mark Zuckerberg admits Biden administration pressured company to censor Americans and more. It's amazing. Meta CEO admits Biden-Harris administration pressured company to censor Americans. And in the letter to Congressman Jim Jordan, Chairman Jim Jordan of the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives. Imagine if the Democrats had this. We wouldn't be hearing any of this. There would be no revelations about any of this, because the Democrats would kill all of this information and bury this information in shallow graves in the desert outside of Las Vegas, like the gangsters that they are. And Mark Zuckerberg admits to caving to White House pressure, censoring content. He wrote, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it, meaning that they buckled and they gave in, even the humor and the satire, that the government intervened to say, we can't have humor and satire on the internet mocking us because they're thin-skinned little fairies who, honestly, these people, these are the people in junior high school and high school that you never saw in the parking lot, that you never saw anywhere. They were hiding somewhere being creepy. But remarkable things. That's in 2021, so that's after the election of Joe Biden, and they were still doing it, little fascists. But Mark Zuckerberg continues on two other very important issues in his letter. In a separate situation, his letter reads, the FBI warned us. The FBI came to you and warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma, the Ukrainian natural gas company that was paying the Biden family $1 million a year for a no-show job that they pretended Hunter Biden had. In the lead up to the 2020 election, here's the FBI tampering in the 2020 election, handcuffs. That fall leading up to the election, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers. Where do you get the fact checkers? At the DNC? For review, and temporarily demoted it. They demoted the story. That's the Orwellian term that they use. While waiting for a reply from the fact checkers, you know. Who are the fact checkers? How long did that take? And what does demoting mean? Demoting means that it cannot be easily shared, that it's not being spread widely on Facebook, that they're crushing free speech. And we have the filthy, corrupt, rotten, stinking FBI under Joe Biden and these corrupt people, Christopher Wray and others, tampering in our presidential election. And they should, I'm not in favor, as far as I'm concerned, you should have to shoot and kill people before you're thrown in prison. Or one of these FBI people tampering and CIA people like John Brennan tampering with our presidential election. That should be illegal, and there should be consequences. Like lying under oath to Congress about spying on us and all that, which happens all the time with no consequence. Mark Zuckerberg continues, it's since been made clear that the reporting, the New York Post reporting about the Hunter Biden laptop, it's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation. But wait, John Brennan and all those 51 corrupt, filthy, rotten intelligence people, they signed on to that letter and led everyone to believe, while using lots of weasel words, that it was Russian disinformation. And all the headlines were 51 intelligence officials say Hunter Biden laptop story is Russian disinformation. It was all part of a horrible communist-style lie perpetrated to tamper with the presidential election on behalf of the left, the Democrat Party. John Brennan, who literally voted for the Communist Party candidate, Gus Hall, for the presidency of the United States, and then was made CIA director by Barack Obama, who was literally mentored by Frank Marshall Davis, a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. But never mind that. So Mark Zuckerberg was shocked to learn, he should listen to my radio show, he was shocked to learn that the reporting was not Russian disinformation. And in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story, meaning preventing it from being shared. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure this does not happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers. And who do you have the fact checkers? Yeah, like Glenn Kessler at the Washington Post, who's a Democrat Party bootlick. Honestly, this is the rising authoritarianism in the United States, and Mark Zuckerberg explains it in his letter. He then says, apart from content moderation, again, content moderation is a really authoritarian Orwellian term. Moderation is not the correct term. It is censorship of political thought and political speech by fascists. That's what it is, Mark Zuckerberg. And I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is even a huge villain in this, and I'd give him a chance to explain himself. But he says, apart from content moderation, I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. Apparently, it's about $400 million that he gave away. And listen, he was shocked to learn that the Democrats abused it and used it to advantage themselves and corrupt the election. But pay no attention to that. I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure local election jurisdictions across the country had the resources they need, because normally they don't, to help people vote safely during a global pandemic. Because that was a real challenge. I made these contributions through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They were designed to be nonpartisan, but they weren't. Spread across urban, rural, and suburban communities. Still, despite the analyses I've seen showing otherwise, I know that some people believe this work benefited one party over the other. Yeah, that's because it did. My goal is to be neutral and to not play a role one way or the other. And, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say I believe him on that. Or even to appear to be playing a role. So I don't plan on making similar contributions this cycle. He doesn't plan on making similar contributions this cycle because he learned that last time around it was abused. It was used and abused. It was, because the Democrats, you know how they are. They corrupt everything. Remarkable stuff. So Mark Zuckerberg's letter to Congressman Jim Jordan, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, where he makes a series of confessions. And Mark Zuckerberg's role aside, really what's most important about this letter is that in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured teams of people for months at Facebook to censor, Mark Zuckerberg's word, censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire. That is total authoritarian, fascist, humorless, and dangerous to civilization itself. And separately, the FBI came to them on the lead up to the 2020 election and corrupted the 2020 election, along with the so-called intelligence officials that also put out that letter, the Felonious 51, tampering with our presidential election. And there were stories at the time, for example, 2020 election outcome, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's victory, would differ with Hunter Biden laptop coverage. And there were polls. Bruce Golding gave us this story August 26th of 2022, in which it was established by way of polls and beyond. Nearly 4 out of 5 Americans who have been following the Hunter Biden laptop scandal believe that truthful coverage would have changed the outcome of the 2020 presidential election, according to a new poll back in 2022. A similar percentage said they're convinced that the information on the computer is real, just 11% saying they thought it was created by Russia, even though John Brennan, who Barack Obama's communist CIA director, this is a very dangerous country we've become. According to a survey conducted by New Jersey-based polling institute, the Technometrica Institute of Policy and Politics, an even higher number, 81%, said U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland should appoint a special counsel to investigate matters related to the first son's infamous laptop. This is a very corrupt government we have. And it's an even more corrupt media we have. And they tampered with our 2020 presidential election. The FBI did by targeting social media and the fair and accurate distribution of good reporting and true stories, and they trampled it. The CIA, other intelligence officials, and the FBI, filthy, rotten criminals tampered in our presidential election and ought to be held accountable, but won't be. Maybe if President Trump wins, maybe some accountability, maybe, but you have to have the Senate and the House too. Otherwise, the Democrats, who are a criminal organization, I think. Would that be an overstatement, Jeff? I think that's probably fair to say at this point. You know, as you gear up for back to school, fall season, a lot of you started yesterday, your feet deserve the same level of support that they've had throughout your summer adventures. Am I right? Introducing G-Defy shoes. G-Defy shoes come with VersaShock technology. Unlike ordinary brands of shoes, G-Defy shoes offer superior shock absorption and trampoline-like energy return. They can help provide relief from foot pain, ankle pain, knee pain, even problems with your back. Whether you're a parent tackling the new school year, chasing after your kids, just hustling through the daily grind, here in America, G-Defy shoes offer the comfort and versatility that your feet crave. My best girl and I each have pairs. We have pairs of Versa, and they're great. We hike around the city in them. Each pair comes with 2 sets of free orthotics and a special lateral stabilizer, which has been proven to improve your step and your stride and your walking when you're running. And as a listener to this radio show, you get to enjoy a special back-to-school offer. You visit gdefy.com. gdefy.com. Get $20 off your order of $100 or more with the code CHRIS. That's GDEFY, gdefy.com. Don't forget to use the code CHRIS for $20 off your order of $100 or more. Step into this fall season with G-Defy shoes. Visit gdefy.com today. Yes, sir. Yeah, very corrupt times we're in. Zuckerberg laid it right out there. Good for him. Because Jim Jordan is the chairman of the committee, if the Democrats had the House, none of this would come out because, it's an ongoing criminal enterprise. It's about power.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
Let's go to the telephones, Jeff. Let's go to Steve calling from the great state of Arizona. Steven, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Steve.
I was reading the story about Zuckerberg this morning, and it occurred to me that the likelihood of a Trump victory just increased significantly because there's no way that Mark Zuckerberg, he puts this before if there's a chance that Democrats can still steal this thing. So it's actually very good news for me. But then I thought a little further than that, I was thinking, well, this probably increases the likelihood that we're going to see some major disruption in the coming days before the election as well, too. This has an implication from that. But I just do not see him making this kind of Zuckerberg getting out in front of this like this at this point in time, right before the election, unless he knows the likelihood that Trump is probably going to win.
Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't count any chickens at this point, right, Steve? I mean, we got to show up on election day and vote the entire ballot, right?
Exactly.
Everywhere in the country, because there's still a lot of corruption and a lot of power-drunk, greedy, corrupt people in primarily the Democratic Party and the American news media and beyond.
This is the Chris Plante Show.
Okay, now we had a little bit of back to school yesterday. A little back to school. So the Democrats, who are what's with the anti-Semitism that the Democrat Party is all about now? That took a lot of us by surprise, I've got to say. Now, Jeff, you're a Jewish American. Is that true? You're a Jewish American. And you see this whole Democrat Party thing and what's going on campuses and college campuses. And we had mayhem at Cornell University in New York State yesterday with they smashing out windows and graffitiing the heck out of the campus. I like to keep it clean, They're spraying their mad graffiti, blood on your hands, big red spray paint cans. They got the police tape up now. Blood on your hands, 10 feet high, red spray paint graffiti. And Israel bombs, Cornell pays. Israel bombs, Cornell pays. So Cornell must be punished, Cornell University. And the mobs of the Democrat Party, make no mistake, the Democrat Party has raised, I don't know how many, certainly great many thousands, maybe millions, to be Jew-hating, anti-Israel, left-wing lunatics. And now that Hezbollah is firing rockets into Israel from Lebanon, from the north, And there are, I mentioned it yesterday, more than 80,000 Israelis have been displaced in the north from their homes, from their towns, because the Islamists of Hezbollah, the Army of Allah, funded by Iran funded by Joe Biden and Barack Obama and their policies and the oil and the Democrats. But Joe Biden gave them $6 billion in exchange for 5 hostages recently. Barack Obama gave them access to tens and tens of billions of dollars so they can wage war against civilization. And, that's what commies do, the red-green coalition. It's a horrible thing. But at Cornell University yesterday, mayhem, smashed windows, mobs of violent Jew-hating students. It's quite remarkable. Yes, it is. And it reminded me, let's go to soundbite number 1, Jeff. It reminded me because the mayhem at Cornell brought to mind a professor there, William Jacobson, who we actually used in May of this year when, they were dealing with the mob, violent, anti-Semitic stuff from the last time around, and now the pro-Palestinian activists vandalize Day Hall on first day of school. It's the first day of school at Cornell, and the violent mob of little Nazis who self-describe as liberals, by the way, and this is one of the remarkable things about it, keeping in mind, and we don't teach anything properly anymore, but keep in mind that Adolf Hitler's party was the National Socialist German Workers' Party. It was the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. And the Communist Party over there, they created Antifa, for example, and now the Democrat Party has revived Antifa. In fact, we didn't have Antifa before the Democrats brought Antifa to the United States just a few years ago. Antifa, created by the communists in Germany in the 1930s, now very popular with young Democrats in the United States of America. And all that is fine, right? Because this is education. This is higher education. I think they get higher and higher. So the Cornell University building vandalized by pro-Palestinian activists on first day of school because it's back to school, hate the Jews stuff. Now let's go to Senator William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, talking about what we're witnessing in the United States and at Cornell University. William Jacobson.
We have on our campuses and in our cities a marriage between the extreme left that wants to tear us down, that hates the United States, is anti-American, anti-Western, anti-capitalist, and the Islamists who hate America, hate Israel. So everything you're seeing,
all of this violence, all of this mayhem, it's the red-green coalition. The 1972 Olympics massacre in Munich by an Islamist group. They were in bed with a radical left-wing German terrorist group, and they demanded the release from prison. The Germans had thrown these left-wing radical terrorists in prison, and the Islamist terrorists came in to massacre the Jewish Olympic team and demanded the release of these left-wing terrorists that had been thrown into German prisons. The red-green alliance, red being the communists, which is why I refuse to say red state, blue state, because the red is the left. But they've seized blue. Yeah, we're true blue. And it's conservatives that are red. No, you commies are red, you filthy, rotten commies. So anti-Israel vandals defaced Cornell University on first day of classes. The New York Post has the story. Let's see if the FBI calls on social media to ban it. Anti-Israel vandals defaced a building at Cornell University on the first day of classes Monday, smashing the glass of a doorway and scrawling hateful messages, blood is on your hands. And this is not the first time, but they're back. And this is what, make no mistake, the Democratic Party has done. And if you're Jewish and you're voting for the Democratic Party, just know that you're voting for Hamas. And now the Democrat Party has to be pro-Hezbollah also, because Hezbollah, the party of Allah, is killing Jews and terrorizing Jews in the north of Israel. And now the Democrats have to be with them because the Democrat Party is anti-Israel and anti-civilization in the end. Law professor at Cornell, William Jacobson.
So everything you're seeing is really a social contagion. You have highly ideologically motivated leaders, organizers, and you have a bunch of students who, many of them, maybe not most, but many of them are going along because it's the thing to do. Hating Israel, hating the United States, chanting almost like cult-like phrases back and forth has captured a lot of the campuses.
Yeah, captured a lot of the campuses. This is what is being taught because academia was taken over long ago by lefties, and the left is becoming more radical, more anti-American, more anti-capitalist, more anti-Semitic, pro-Islamist, which, very little is more ironic than that. LGBTQ for Hamas. They would literally be murdered day one by the people that they're supporting. It's a mental illness. They call themselves liberals. They're not. Law professor William Jacobson.
But this is a serious situation. It's the extreme left that wants to tear us down, almost Khmer Rouge, go back to year zero and start over, and the extreme Islamists who are worshiping Hamas, who want to take us back to the 8th century. So this is really a wake-up call for this country, that what is happening now is not just a social contagion, it is extremely dangerous, and this marriage of the extreme left and the Islamists is not something that we've really seen before, and people need to recognize this is a serious situation.
This is a serious situation, and it is 100% Democrat Party driven, unambiguously. This morning on the Fox News Channel, bright and early, there was a young woman who was going into her junior year at Cornell University, and she was there yesterday, and she's Jewish, and she was there yesterday watching the Young Nazi League attacking the building and condemning the existence of Israel. Boy, the brainwashing, the indoctrination, it is more severe than we knew. And they go away for summer, and instead of, overdosing on fentanyl and dying, they just go to sleep hating the Jews and wake up hating the Jews and Israel. And now they're back at Cornell University, at Cornell. And this is a young woman, Amanda Silberstein, starting her junior year at Cornell University. She was terrorized last year by the lunatics at Cornell, and now she's back junior at Cornell, incoming Amanda Silberstein.
I think that the university is allowing their own fear of what unhinged chaos that these students can bring upon the school to dictate their decisions. As we're starting a new school year, it's imperative that these administration members keep in mind that these overtly anti-Semitic and blatantly illegal actions will continue on the campus so long as they go unpunished, and that the administration needs to hold students accountable, or they are in effect condoning this behavior and allowing it to persist.
Silence is violence, man. Silence is complicity. The left used to love to throw out phrases like that. Now, they're the rising tide of fascism in America. And I've got photographs here of the college students at Cornell with their banners, their big banners. And the professor was talking about year zero and the, Khmer Rouge communist regime in Cambodia and so on. And these students took over this building at Cornell, and they've got a big banner they made. It looks like it's scrawled by primitives. People's School coming soon, which is total commie propaganda, lunatic. The People's School. The death camps are no doubt soon to follow because these people aren't democratic. They're not liberal. It's quite extraordinary. The people at Cornell put out a statement, the vice president for university relations, yesterday put out a statement to the anti-Israel vandalism on campus. We're appalled by the graffiti spray painted and the glass shattered. It's crystal knocked again. They love crystal knocked. That's a Nazi thing for Democrats listening along. It's like, one of the harbingers, the beginning of the Holocaust, crystal knocked. And as I like to say, with Democrats, every knocked is crystal knocked. Now, Joel Molina, vice president for University Relations, put out a statement. We are appalled by the graffiti spray painted, the glass shattered overnight along the front entrance of Day Hall. It's called Day Hall, named for somebody named Day who contributed. And the acts of violence, extended occupation of buildings or property damaged, including graffiti, will not be tolerated and will prompt an immediate response from public safety. Public safety, well, there's going to be an immediate response. Isn't that amazing? It's all about public safety. But here they come again, and this is what the Democrat Party has done to America because they were taken over by the left, and the left is the most murderous, blood-drenched gang of ghouls in the history of the world. The Islamists look like the Red Cross compared to the left. Just amazing times we're in. But that's what we have going on because it's back to school. Back to school time. Isn't that amazing? I'm telling you. All right, let's take a phone call, Jeff, and there is a lot more to get to. I've got Jen Psaki talking to Don Lemon. What a circle fest that is. Good Lord. And President Trump and politics. We've got a lot more. Let's go to Ron calling from Potomac, Maryland. Ronaldo, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Well, thank you so much for taking my call. I just wanted to point out to your wonderful audience that this business of Jews supporting Democrats, that has to be defined properly. There are Orthodox Jews and people who follow the Jewish faith carefully, and most of them, probably 80-90%, are dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republicans who endorse and embrace Christian theology and Christian values, American values.
Judeo-Christian values, as they have long been known.
Actually, that's right. Correct. And then there's other flavors, unfortunately, of Judaism. There was just recently a rabbi in Bethesda, Maryland, who came out and beyond all understanding, claim, quote, our sacred texts dictate that we vote for Kamala Harris. Now, that has to be the all-time dumbest things I've ever heard from anybody who calls themselves a rabbi. So for your audience, I'd like them to understand that there are many Jews who support Judeo-Christian traditional values, and that there are other Jews who really are the Democrat Party with 3 holidays thrown in. They're tenuously attached to Judaism. They're tenuously attached to the precepts of our religion. And they have this notion that somehow that if you're not a Democrat, you're not a Jew. Well, absolutely the opposite is completely true. Now, I tend to be traditional. I'm not Orthodox. I tend to be traditional. But I guess it was my 22 years of military service that gave me this love of this country and the people that I worked with and lived with, excuse me, in the Army. And I feel like people ought to know that Judaism does not endorse this kind of mayhem that the Democrat Party brings on us. So.
Well, I know that to be true. Thank you for your 22 years in the United States Army. God bless you. And yeah, they're kind of like ginos. We've got rhinos, Republican name only, and I think at this point we've got to label people as Jewish in name only.
Correct. Absolutely correct. I hadn't thought of that, but I certainly will put that down in my notebook when I have these discussions with these brain-dead people who think that somehow voting Democrat is a religious imperative. You know, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, they'll never come from me. Really? Look who they're saddled up with. I mean, honestly, it's Hamas. Hamas is a genocidal death cult of anti-Semites. And the Democrats are in bed with them. And they've got to be supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon because they're doing the same thing that Hamas is doing. And the Democrats are in bed with Hamas, so they have to be in bed with Hezbollah and with Iran. And look at what Barack Obama and Joe Biden have done with Iran, empowering and funding Iran, the world's number one source of radical Islamic terror, focused on destroying the state of Israel. And the Democrat Party is all in, honestly. And again, last night at Cornell, every knocked is crystal knocked. Thank you, Ron.
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
Since we were just talking about the Mark Zuckerberg letter to Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, we were reminded that in 2022, there was a Senate hearing, and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, was called in. And Senator Josh Hawley asked him, so you're telling me that the federal government and the FBI and Department of Homeland Security did not pressure the big tech companies to crush information about the Hunter Biden laptop and so on? And here is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security obviously committing perjury while under oath before a Senate committee.
Censorship. Is that constitutional?
That is unequivocally false.
Is what the emails show.
It is unequivocally false, Senator.
You are not pressuring the big tech companies to take down accounts. You are not meeting with them to ask them to censor on your behalf.
That is correct. We are not.
That is a lie. Either that or Mark Zuckerberg lied in this letter that was provided to the Congress yesterday. One or the other. But I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg is lying. And we learned about this back then, which is why Senator Josh Hawley was asking these salient questions. And he was incredulous, as you could hear, Senator Hawley was. Wait, you're saying because they had whistleblowers come forward, they had testimony behind closed doors, and Mark Zuckerberg was making his people available to the Congress to testify. And Senator Josh Hawley asked our Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, you're saying that you're not asking these tech companies to censor information? That's right, we're not. That's called perjury. The rest of us would be under arrest.